Hello, and welcome to Keeper's Corner Podcast, where we're breaking down anything and everything Utica City FC related. With your hosts, as always, Matthew Sterling, Michelle Brooks, and Brandon Brooks. Let's go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first episode of Keeper's Corner Podcast for the 2021 season. It's been a long time since we've put out an episode because it's been a long time since there's been anything MASL related because of this pandemic thing and some other stuff. But
yeah, that little thing.
It's good to be back. As always, I'm Matt Sterling, joined by my fellow co-hosts, Michelle Walters. Oh, God, why do you have your old name? Michelle Brooks.
Hi.
I'm reading the screen. Brandon Brooks.
I'm here, too.
And we've been able to get him on once again, the FC Fanatic, Matt Huber.
That guy.
By the way, Michelle, you do realize that they can't see you waving, right?
Sorry. Well, I'm going to wave anyway.
You can wave all you want, but they can't see you.
He's so mad.
Okay.
Sorry. Let's do this.
I guess we'll start with the most recent news having to pertain to the first MASL All Star game, which is going to be Saturday, December 12th, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central.
Wait, what?
December 5th.
December 5th. Why am I... Yeah. God, I've got to... Yeah.
Wait, their 30% capacity is 1,300.
13 to 1,600 is what they're expecting, yeah, I think.
Yep, 1,600.
Huber!
Yeah.
Hosted by Kansas City.
Need to get me a ticket.
East versus West rosters are based on whatever team they were with last year. So, you might see, who was it? We had standout. That was Vinny Dantas. You know him. You hate him from his time in Baltimore. He's back on the East, even though he's going to be playing for Tacoma this season.
Yeah.
Wait, isn't Tacoma a West? Okay.
Right, it's all based off of last season.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting how Saturday the 5th, Vinny will be playing for the East, and then the next night, which is something we'll get into later, he'll be playing for his actual team in Tacoma.
For the West.
For the West. Well, all right then.
The best coast.
The East Coast.
Yeah, if you say so.
That's what all the West Coast people I hear.
No. The best coast is the East Coast. We'll just stick to that.
Anywho.
So the East roster is made up of player coach Leo Gibson from Kansas City. In goal, they have William Van Zella of Baltimore Blast and Paulo Nascimento of St. Louis Ambush. Michelle, you should remember him as your first Hedgehog.
Yes.
Sonic!
Just to let you guys know, there will be a third goalie announced.
Okay.
It is not known who it is.
If it's not Andrew Coughlin, I don't care.
I don't know who it is. We tried getting it out of Leo Gibson last night and was unsuccessful. So, but there is a third goalie.
All right.
I mean,
sorry. Go ahead.
I couldn't necessarily. I could see it being Coughlin, but I mean, there's a lot of choices out there, and there's a lot of good goalies out there.
I will agree with that. So Gibson is player and coach potentially player, like he was in the game in Utica.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, no, he wasn't in the game in Utica. He
was suspended, but you see what I'm saying? Like he could have had the potential if he wasn't suspended.
Yeah, the same thing he did all last season for Kansas City.
Okay. Yep. All right.
Defenders: John Sosa, Kansas City; Utica's own Darren Toby; Elton De Oliveira out of Harrisburg; Alex Duarte from St. Louis; and Robert Palmer from KC. Midfielders: our own Nate Bordeaux, Alex Bradley out of Milwaukee, Ian Bennett out of Milwaukee.
All right, I'm sorry. Y'all can hate me. I love Nate to death. I'm excited to see what Ian Bennett can do.
Well, I mean, we've seen what he can do, but...
Sorry. Yeah, but we've been off since what, February?
Well, you haven't been constantly watching, MASL replays? Come on.
Twitter. I follow Twitter. Sorry.
Then you have 5 forwards on the roster. Max Ferdinand representing Milwaukee, even though in the offseason he signed for St. Louis. Dominic Francis from Harrisburg.
Yep.
Vinny Dantas, who we already touched on, representing the Blast, even though he's now on Tacoma. Doug Miller of the Rochester Lancers. And Kevin Ellis of the KC Comets. That makes up the East to this point.
Right.
Interesting mix.
Yeah, one of the big things that you are seeing from the East roster, there's no players from Florida yet.
None.
None.
Yeah.
I do believe there will be a player from Florida. We just don't know who it is yet. They're still announcing players.
But I'm sorry, Hubert. That seems pretty solid.
Oh, don't get me wrong. It's a very solid team. But I mean, you've got the quote unquote Eastern Conference champions. Why don't they have a player that's represented in the All Star game?
Quote
I guess-
unquote.
Let me ask you this. I mean, if you had to pick one from Florida to be on there, I mean, who would you want to see on there?
Ricardo Carvalho.
I was going
I
to say.
knew that was coming.
We
Of
already
course.
knew.
I mean, consistency over the last few years, both in Harrisburg and in Florida. I'm completely unbiased, but yeah, I would pick him in a heartbeat.
I'll play devil's advocate. He seemed to come out a little bit more in Florida than he did in Harrisburg.
Here's the thing. If it wasn't Ricardo Carvalho, I could see Drew Ruggles, Defender of the Year,
Yup.
being on the roster. So I mean, there's still 2 weeks left, and the rosters aren't finalized. Well, they are finalized, but they haven't all been announced.
There's still room for movement.
Right.
Well, they finalized the rosters, but they haven't publicly made all of them available, essentially.
Right. Fun fact. The rosters have been known for a month.
Are we shocked?
Well,
Or are we surprised?
I don't know. I don't know. I would imagine that I didn't think that they would have known about it for this long, and they're just drawing it out.
But
It would have
they-
been cool to have like the whole list and be like, all right, here are the guys, instead of like, oh, two at a time.
Well, see, here's the thing, though. We've also got to remember there is border restrictions right now, so people from Mexico and Canada, no bueno.
Very true.
Well, unless they're going to stay here for a while. That's what MLB did.
Yeah, unless you're going to be here for a while, which that would obviously put Christian out of play because Christian is in the league down in Mexico.
Yep.
So,
Well, you'll find out something interesting on the Western side, the Western roster. I was kind of giving you a segue there, Matt.
Okay.
let's do this.
Sorry, they're a little awkward to ride on. You know, I've never had a chance to ride a Segway.
Oh, okay. Well, ride this
Oh,
one.
God.
Ride this one.
Here.
Western coach / player Nick Pereira, Tacoma Stars, taking the same role he has in Tacoma. Goalkeepers are Danny Waltman of Tacoma and Chris Toth of Tacoma, who's representing the Ontario Fury, who he played for last year. Defenders, Israel Sese, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correct, of Ontario. Guerrero Pino of San Diego. Cesar Cerda, San Diego. Uzi Tayu, Ontario. Corey Keats, Tacoma. Midfielders are Lipe Andrade of Dallas. Michael Ramos, Tacoma. Charlie Gonzalez of Ontario. Forwards, Frank Tayu, the King from Ontario.
Hold up, real quick.
Yeah.
Frank Tayu is not in the game.
Yeah?
Wait.
He had a slight injury and is not going to be at the All-Star game.
All right, so he will be bowed out of that roster, and they're probably going to have to find a replacement.
Okay.
Yep, I do believe, from what I've heard, there will be a replacement announced.
Okay. Craig Childs, Captain America for San Diego. Our old friend Slavisa Ubi-Peripovic, representing San Diego. Forward Philip Lund for Tacoma. And the one that I'm sure you were waiting for, Matt, Brian Aguilar of the Monterey Flash.
Correct. Yeah. From what I've been told, Brian has been playing in the States, or has been in the States this whole time, making him eligible. And this is very interesting going into the season. He is a free agent. And
Interesting.
And
I'm sure a number of teams are looking at him, and I can tell you, I'm pretty certain Utica is looking at him.
if they weren't, I would have some questions for
As would I.
I would have
be
a lot of
little
questions.
surprised. Yeah.
Like,
And after-
are you blind?
After last season, I mean, he did fantastic last year. And as a free agent, we can cover that when we get to our little free agent segment looking at the 2021 season. But given his offensive capabilities, 33 goals, 15 assists last year, I would expect some firepower out of him in this game.
Yep. Absolutely.
A little
It
bit.
would be surprising not to see him, kind of take the reins there.
This is the first indoor arena, whatever you want to call it, hockey soccer game, all-star game.
How dare
since Yeah, I know. That was bad. Oh, everyone's disappearing.
I'm here.
Okay. Well, Michelle just got up and walked away.
Well,
Probably needs another drink if we're going to keep talking. So this will be the first All-Star game since 05-06. Matt, you're going out there with Soccer Sam. What are you expecting?
Well, I mean, I'm not going out there with We will happen to be at the same place. What am I expecting from this? I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting to see some of these players playing with each other in person. Ian Bennett, Max Ferdinand. I've never seen Leo Gibson play in person. Well, no, I haven't. Scratch that. I've never met him in person. I've seen him play. Never seen Craig Childs play. So I'm expecting a well-played game. Now, they haven't been able to practice, and they probably won't be able to practice until maybe right before kickoff. So there's going to be a little bit of inconsistency maybe in the first few minutes, but once that happens, I think it's going to be a hard-fought match. Not going to give my prediction just yet, but I think it's going to be great. It's something the league has needed, and I've been kind of pitching the idea for quite a while.
Nonsense.
So yeah, I'm super excited.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to shape up to at least be an entertaining exhibition between some of the game's best and some of the game's better players. Obviously, with people bowing out due to COVID concerns or travel restrictions, it's not going to be 100% of the best roster that you would expect to put out there, but the talent level certainly there.
I would still, honestly, I would still consider it to be an all-star game. There's a lot of talent on that field, and like you said, it might not be the best talent, but every all-star game has these issues.
Oh, yeah.
You could have a famous player pull a hamstring and not be able to play. It's still considered an all-star game.
Or you get the snubs in other sports because they have a requirement where every team has to have one representative.
Right. And, honestly, I was kind of hoping that would happen. Now, the rosters aren't finalized yet, but you don't have a representative from Turlock. You don't have a representative from Florida. So,
or Mesquite or Orlando or...
Yep.
Well, I mean, Mesquite, that's an issue within itself.
Right.
Orlando, they're probably not back, or they probably have folded. I don't know.
Or Soles.
Well, that's because,
Reasons.
Raisins, okay.
they're south of the border.
Yeah, and that's the thing, too. I mean, obviously, like Utica couldn't pick some of their players simply because of locale. Obviously, we're not going to see a Christian Segura in this one. We're not going to see well, obviously we wouldn't see like a Ricardo Diegues or a Zuniga or anything like that, just because, south of the border, as we've already said. So, I mean, obviously, there's certain ones that we would not have seen from Utica. And, I mean, you have to, what?
Well, also, Soles's website has been completely dismantled.
I could see them doing that. They're defunct for the year, so why not take your website down and save on money that you're not going to make?
Yeah, I think they just went completely done for the year, so I could see that.
Let's say,
They in Monterey were given the, whatever you want to call it, a year off vacation.
Woot, time off.
Say, what was the look for? Just not on recording. Like, what was the look for?
I was kind of shocked the fact that I clicked on a website and it was like, hey, there's no website.
I was like, was I saying something wrong? I'm like, I'm pretty sure that I'm not saying something wrong here.
Wasn't you the fact that, like I said, I went to click on website and there was no website?
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. As we had already talked about, it was just a matter of not only picking the best talent they could, but also picking, talent that was available to be able to do this event. So, I mean, obviously there's certain ones that weren't going to be able to be picked for pandemic reasons.
So something that was brought up last night on In the Box with Matt, Adam, and Gio was, much like these other games, this will probably be a pay-per-view event. Single cost, just to watch the game. I get it. You can't have a full arena. You're looking at a year with a lot of teams probably not being allowed to have anyone in the stands, but you have to come to a fair price. For an exhibition. What are you guys willing to pay?
I'd say 40.
You'd go that high?
I like soccer.
$1 million.
No, I'm not going that high.
Yes, I did.
Brandon,
The
I'm going to
Dr.
say
Evil.
something that you told Michelle earlier. They can't see what you're doing on screen.
For those that can't see, I totally did the Dr. Evil. There, I explained it. Ha, 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 ha.
Oh, dear.
I don't know. I think if I were, if they came out, whenever they come out with the pricing for it, I mean, I would say somewhere between, $19.99 and maybe $29.99. I could see either one of those, frankly, being a one-time cost.
Okay.
I mean, in an ideal world, it would be like a $14.99, but I doubt that. I think it's going to be 20, maybe 30. So I could see it being either one of those. I would honestly probably be fine paying them. I would be less fine paying $30, but I would still pay it because I would want to watch. I would want to watch. Period.
Yeah, I'd be willing to kick in what's left. So
now, Matt, this was a segment you guys were doing that I kind of came in towards the end. What did you settle on as kind of a fair price range?
Well, the price point that's been thrown around is $18. So we put a poll up on MASL in the box, and the reviews were mixed. Now, take the $18 and compare it to tickets, single game tickets in all of these arenas. I can tell you, $18 is more on the lower side.
yes.
So it's not that bad. Now, my idea was maybe package in the next night when Tacoma plays St. Louis. So 2 games for $18.
I was gonna say everybody's in for a good bundle.
Right. So I think 18's a fair price. Especially the key to it is going to be the quality. Now, if this game was being held in Turlock, I am not going to pay $18 for that. Or if the game was being played in El Paso. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever seen an El Paso broadcast, but it sounds like the guy is in the restroom giving commentary.
It's better than Mesquite, which 9 times out of 10 doesn't have commentary.
Well, right, but we're okay. We'll just talk Kansas City in this case. So,
Okay.
Kansas City has a great broadcast. So this is going to be a high quality broadcast. Great announcers. I've heard that there's going to be more camera angles. There's going to be a lot more going on. So $18, I think, is a great price.
Okay. So I did participate in that poll you guys threw up in the box, and I guess mine's kind of a snide 18's too much because I'm going to be working, and I don't want to have to pay $18 to watch something that already happened.
Well,
if I'm going
those
to pay
of
for
us-
it, I want the live access.
Those of us who get weekends off.
Right. But
Yeah.
if you guys can watch it live, $18-20, that's a great deal, especially if there's more than one person in the house. But if it's locked behind that paywall, and I'm,
Yeah,
at halftime,
that
not
I
home
can
until the
understand.
fourth quarter, I'm not going to spend $18 for 15 minutes of soccer. I'm
no.
sorry.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, though, is it's, things like pay-per-view pricing is not made for people who watch it after the fact. After the fact, it is more of like a movie rental, essentially. Not a you're not watching a live sporting event. You could have already seen what the result is, whether you intentionally did it or not. So, I mean, I can see your point, but at the same time, they're not going to give 2 different price points. Plain and simple. They're not going to do it. And
So
it would be silly for them to do it because even though you won't be happy with it, even though you might not be happy with the pricing of, paying $18 to watch it after the fact, to be watching, a recording, there's still going to be the people that do. And they're going to be happy to do it because they want to watch soccer. They want to watch, arena soccer. They want to do it. And so they're going to pay the price. Doesn't matter what it is. And that's going to happen for, both the live event and, recordings of it.
See, I'm kind of with you, Brandon, where $20, great deal if I'm watching it live. $30, you're stretching me a little bit for a one-time game that doesn't mean anything. I mean, even if it's behind a paywall and then they open it up, 3-4 days later, I would be more open to that. But if it's locked behind that paywall forever, I don't know. I think we're just going to have to see how it rolls out.
I would be very shocked if they ever opened it up after the fact, because I mean that's the same thing as I'm going to compare them to wrestling pay-per-views or MMA, something like that. But I understand they are not as large as those organizations. However, it's the same thing. It doesn't matter when you want to buy it; it's still going to be the same price. But get as a pre-order, as a buying it when the event's essentially starting, or after the fact. And sometimes you can't even get it after the fact. So if you can even watch it after the fact, you also have to kind of count your blessings there and hey, at least I can watch it even if it is after the fact, because some services don't even allow that. I mean, other times, of course, you could just find it on YouTube or whatnot, but still. Yeah. Just my 2 cents.
Yeah, I don't know how many other people are in the same boat that I'm in. They know it's a Saturday night; they're going to be working. I would like to watch the first All Star game in 15 years, but if I'm only catching a tiny portion of it, I don't want to pay full price.
And maybe they do offer some sort of watch a replay for X amount. I mean, I'm not exactly sure. It hasn't been announced yet what's happening with this whole pay-per-view thing. So who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, as of now, it's still not even listed what service is going to carry it. So.
Right.
Which with 2 weeks to go, let's get a service.
You might want to do that.
I want to narrow that down. Yeah.
A little bit.
But I guess that kind of puts the All-Star game behind us. Matt, enjoy your trip. We will certainly want to hear from you after the fact.
Oh, of course.
And then we can turn
Or
our
prior
attention,
to.
well, or prior or during or whatever you guys do while I'm at work, but that's life. We can turn our attention to the 2021 season, and I think the biggest question, which we all kind of have answers to, is will there be fans in the stands?
Fans in the stands.
I'm
Sorry.
saying no because New York State is not allowing fans into any sort of event, at least for the foreseeable future.
Okay,
Sad panda.
I'm going to disagree. Here's why. So there's still 2 months left. Now, a lot of it is going to be based off of Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I'm sure you guys got the same email that I got from Utica, they are in talks with the Department of Health, the New York State. They're in contact with Albany to make this happen. Which, of course, they were also in talks with them during the playoffs. But anyways.
Yeah, that was also before Oneida County started spiking and having days with over 100 cases.
And then we started spiking again within the last couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Utica will have fans. I don't know what the capacity is going to be.
2?
Well, if I'm one of the two, that's fine.
Dibs on the other one.
You guys can fight over the other one.
Dibs on the other one. Must respect the dibs.
Yeah. So I would say 25% at first.
I don't know. We got to get these cases starting to come down first.
Yeah, and you have that 2-week lag. So, at least to begin, I don't expect any fans in the stands.
Nope.
Not here, not Rochester, not Baltimore, not the California teams.
I'm going to say within the MASL entirety, no.
Well,
See, no, there are fans that will be allowed in stands, but it's going to be in states like Florida that their governor lifted all restrictions a few months ago because reasons.
Missouri.
Missouri
We'll
is
say
allowing them
reasons.
because reasons. Texas, I could see allowing it.
Because reasons.
Yeah, well, it starts with an R, but
Reasons. We'll
Reasons.
go with reasons. We're not going
reasons.
political.
No.
Yeah. So this is why the pay-per-view option would be so beneficial because it would go towards helping the teams. So if there was a pay-per-view service, so let's say for example, Utica had no fans for a month, you could spend X amount, and that money would go towards Utica.
Yep.
Mhm.
Makes sense.
Yep.
But at the same time, the world lately is not about making sense.
yeah,
That's the problem.
yay 2020.
Yay.
Yay! The year that nothing gets to happen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which also brings us kind of to the next thing, because last I checked, international players want.
Well, that's kind of a double-headed issue. Obviously, there's the pandemic issue, which, I mean, depending on how the transition and inauguration goes, we could see some paperwork side issues relieved in, maybe by February, mid-February, end of February.
That would be amazing.
But as far as the pandemic, I mean, we already have a bunch of international travels resumed either way. Come into the country, put them up in a hotel for 2 weeks, let them quarantine, then get them with the team.
But it's about getting those visas signed.
Yeah, I honestly think the visa issue is a bigger issue than the pandemic at this point.
Yep.
Like, if the players want to play,
Bring them
They'll-
back.
come, they'll deal with it for whatever the season is, 4 months at this point.
It's not about, honestly, at this point, it's not about the money. It's not about whether or not they're willing to sign. It's not about the pandemic. Just let it happen.
I mean, it's going to have a lot. It's going to have a lot to do with the health issues in the world.
We
I
have a
mean,
vaccine.
Okay, so we have 2 vaccines. Both have to be approved by the FDA, which will probably take a couple weeks just because you have all the data that needs to be reviewed. Then comes production, which they already have a bunch produced, it sounds like. The Pfizer one says they have a few million doses ready to go as soon as they get approval. That still takes distribution time on trucking companies, trains, whatever they're shipping them on, getting them to the hospitals, getting them to the hot spots, getting them to the people that need it the most to begin with, which is going to be your frontline healthcare workers and the elderly. By the time it gets to the general population, optimistically, you're talking spring, March, April at the earliest.
Yep.
And then the fun part will be finding out how long the vaccine lasts for. because we have, it's a rushed emergency vaccine. So even if you get both, maybe one ends up lasting longer than the other. Is it going to be like tetanus where you need booster shots? Is it going to be like the MMR vaccine where once you get it like 3 times as a kid, you're good to go?
No, of course you're going to need boosters.
Mm-hmm. Is it going to be something like the flu shot where we end up needing it annually depending on how many other strains of COVID come out? I mean, fortunately, at this point, it doesn't look like it mutates too quickly. Will enough of the population get the vaccine to achieve herd immunity? There's just a lot of ifs, at least as far as that goes. Travel.
Were you asleep?
No.
No, he's here. He's just listening. He's just like, when am I going to be able to pop in?
No, you guys go.
It just for a second there, I just could hear. I'm like, is he sleeping?
Well, when he turns the camera off, anything could be happening. Oh, God.
I don't know. My camera's off, and I don't know why it's off because I didn't turn mine off.
Oh dear.
I just had to check. That's all. Because it wasn't so much the fact that he was sleeping. It was more of I didn't want to like all of a sudden hear when one of us was talking just or something like that.
My God.
Sorry, that's
You run the risk of this on this podcast, dude. All right. Anyway, done with the political. Yes,
Science is not political. It is an objective statement
done.
of reality.
we're done.
Obviously, besides the international players, what kind of travel are we going to see?
We're not.
With team revenues down,
We're not.
do we see more like 2 years ago when there were divisions within the conferences and you played other teams 5 times, to keep travel costs down?
I'm expecting to see what we saw in 2019, which was a whole lot of Harrisburg, a whole lot of Baltimore.
Well, here's the thing. Now, I'm still here. So don't be surprised if teams play more away games than home games.
To put fans in the stand and split that revenue a little more.
Right, and they would share revenue with the other team. Don't be surprised if you see more of that.
Okay.
That being said, that might open the door for a certain team to come back into the league that previously had said they were out.
Certain team.
Eh?
The Milwaukee Wave.
Right, they're already bowing out because,
Well, I know their stadium is also not allowing games to be played in their stadium.
Correct.
Right,
But
so
that's not stopping them from playing games elsewhere.
That would suck, though, personally.
I mean, it would suck for their fans that maybe can't travel, but I mean, at least they would still be able to see games.
That's
honestly one out for Matt's friend Adam, and if it means that they can have a season, put them to their M2 affiliates arena in Muskegon or whatever it is, Michigan.
I just want to be able to wear my jersey.
Excuse me.
You're wearing yours right now.
Yeah.
We have not worn it in a stadium-like environment yet.
Look, I got the flag hanging. I got the jersey on.
Bruh.
I can play some arena music. It'll.
Go. Oh,
No.
I mean, I can pipe in fans chanting.
People are going to listen to this tomorrow and want to cry. All right, so the next. No Soles in Monterey. Who else takes a sabbatical? So we just touched on one. Milwaukee.
My God.
See, Borussia Dortmund provided that.
I'm pretty sure we use the same one in our stadium. Anyway.
It was the top one on YouTube, so.
So I'm pretty sure we just touched on one. Who else takes a sabbatical? The Milwaukee Wave.
Maybe not, depending on how many
Depending on if there's travel.
Look, I mean, Toronto kicked out the Blue Jays for the entire MLB season.
Mm-hmm.
They played at their MILB affiliate, the Buffalo. It's not the Rough Riders, is it?
Buffalo
I think it is Buffalo Bison. Yeah, their stadium in Buffalo, New York. Which, I mean, fine, do the same thing to Milwaukee. Kick them into their M2 affiliates arena, or as Soccer Sam suggested, for a way to save on lost revenue. Everyone has these practice facilities indoors. If you can have a full-size field and put the cameras up, run it out of there.
Ours was supposed to be built.
Yeah, then the COVID thing happened and the county ran out of money because it was all supposed to come from sales tax revenue. And now the county's being sued for like $10 million in already done labor.
So, I mean, that's the thing is, a lot of people are going to be just happy that they get to see the sport again.
Yes.
Mhm.
They're going to be like myself. I would most likely be pretty content just to be able to watch again. Regardless of whether or not I can be there. I mean, obviously, preference being there. But if I can't, I'm not. It's not going to be the end of the world for me. I'm still going to watch every single game.
If I
At least any game that Utica has any sort of involvement in.
Mhm.
And I will try and I usually try and watch other games too. But obviously, that's usually where my preference is, of course, because a little biased.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, including myself, are just going to be happy to be able to see the sport again and have at least some sort of normalcy in their lives in the times that we're living in. And that's just the way that's just the way of the world. That's the way it's that's just how it is. And I mean, there'll be those that might not be happy with just that. They want the fan experience. They want to be able to be in the stands and eat the corn dogs and anything else and just have the full experience. But you have to kind of curb. I feel that you have to curb your expectations in this day and age and really just kind of be happy with what you can get. Count your blessings, that sort of thing. That's just me being a kind of a realist at this point. You just kind of have to get what you can and don't get greedy. I don't know. That's just me.
No, you're absolutely right, and it's kind of like what I was telling you guys before we went on. People are doubting the All Star game. People are doubting the season. Like without a season, a lot of these teams would probably not be coming back.
Right.
So I think we need to take what we can get, cheer for whatever soccer happens, buy merchandise, buy the pay-per-view stuff, and support not just your team but the sport itself.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Because this is a critical year. We don't know what's gonna happen. So
Yeah.
just take what we can get and we'll worry about next year.
I mean, in reality, this could kind of make or break indoor
Exactly.
soccer. It really could.
Oh yeah. Easily.
Yeah, it's going to be a rough season for. Oh Jesus, there's Matt again. Andy's gone.
Bye, Matt.
I'm here.
Yeah, it's going to be a weird year. This is where I've harped on it before. Is the league, even in a good year, I think their live games on YouTube should be behind a subscription paywall monthly. If you're charging me $20 a month and I can watch every game live, that's a great deal. Put them on a 4-day lag for a $10 a month. You can watch them, but 72 hours later, so the scores are out there. And if you don't want to pay, well, then you just get the highlights.
I don't. I mean, personally, I wouldn't see like a tiered subscription model. I mean, you have to think about the league that you're looking at here. I mean, you're not looking at like the MLB or something like that where you've got millions of fans and they could do and they're going to be looking to do tiered subscription plans or something like that to give people access. I could see basically one, and that would be it. Like, here's the games, here's where you can watch them. But the thing is, though, is with a subscription, there's going to be some level of expectation from the fans. They're going to expect a clean experience. And some of these, as we have seen, some of these stadiums have a difficult time offering that, given their cameras, given their audio systems, things like that. And
given where they put the guys on the mics.
And I feel like it's going to I shouldn't say showcase something that is a subpar product, but that's kind of what I'm thinking. Is that's kind of the wording that's coming to my mind, is that it's going to showcase a subpar product that a lot of people are not going to be happy with. But especially before they were able to watch it for free, and now they're going to have to pay for it. Like, there's going to be some unhappy people because of that.
Oh yeah, well you can't please everyone, and I mean, unless they get a deal with like ESPN Plus, where I'm already paying in my $5 a month as part of Disney Plus, you're going to have to go with a more expensive plan.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
with
I don't think it's going to be. I think if I were to bet, I would say it's some sort of YouTube. That's just my guess. But yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. It's going to come down to how much would you pay to like watch games like Interlock, or for the most part, quality is okay. So it's just going to boil down to what you'd be willing to pay.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah, that. I don't know. That's there's a lot of wild cards still with a month and a half before the proposed start of the season. Hopefully we start seeing some of the details hammered out sooner rather than later. Otherwise, we're going to have to resort to wild speculation again, and nobody
Very much
likes
wild.
that. Now, if we take a closer look at Utica ahead of this season, let's begin some wild speculation.
Wait a second.
At the moment, we have 4 defenders on the roster in Togba, Toby, Obasi, and Logan. Midfield, Nate, Christian, Moy. Forwards, Bo, and then 2 inactives in Diegues and Zuniga, and Coughlin in goal.
Give it time.
And then the Tyler Turner signing, who's been in MASL previously and some experience with the USL LA2 team. Unsigned from last year's roster, Alan Carventura Jr., who we saw for a couple games at the end there. Sensei Goldman.
He better resign.
Momo, Petrera, Ben Raymond, Liam Callahan, Salas, who I could see, retiring. And I don't know. Do you see people that haven't signed at this point just sitting out the season?
So, as far as some of them that you just mentioned there, one in particular would be like Goldman. I could 100% see him potentially not participating in the season. And the reason being would be, his situation at home, his personal stuff. So, I definitely could see that influencing his decision to even participate. Doesn't matter what team. Just some of the others, I think it just comes down to from their perspective, how willing they are to be a part of it. I'm sure that a lot of them are rip-roaring and ready to go, but, everything takes an extra ounce of caution these days. Everything. Going to the store, whatever. So I could see it being a more, difficult decision, quote unquote. I don't know. I could see some, I could see some of them definitely wanting to come back. I could see most of them wanting to come back. But it's not so much the willingness, it's the capability in some cases. Again, total speculation on my part. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of these unsigned guys re-signed, especially Tim and Momo, Ben, obviously. The others, I don't know. I don't know about Mauricio Salas. It'd be great to have him back. It wouldn't surprise me if he went to Rochester for his last year, but it also wouldn't surprise me if he came back to Utica for one last year. Petrera, I don't see coming back. I kind of see him more as leaning towards like an assistant coach.
Okay.
So I don't see him coming back. Liam, I'd love to see him back, but he hasn't really posted a lot on Twitter, so I don't know what's going on there. As for Ventura, probably not. Not because he's not a talented player, but I just don't know if he's south of the border like everyone else. And but we'll see.
All right. Well, yeah. There's a lot of holes to fill at this point before you even you just look at the empty roster, and then who knows if we'll be able to get Diegues and Zuniga across the border. And then you throw in our losses of Matt Perella, who went from being our backup to, I would wager, Rochester's starting keeper.
Yep.
And Jake Schindler, who returned home to Rochester. I think we all saw that coming given the pandemic. He lives in Rochester, was married last spring. They just had their first child. Everything there said he was going home, and who could blame him?
That absolutely makes sense.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, I knew it's weird. I kind of had a suspicion Matt was leaving, and I also kind of had a suspicion he was going to Rochester. And it's funny, I had a conversation with him about it one day, and he's like, "Where do you think I'm going to end up?" And I'm like, "Dude, you're going to end up in Rochester. It's a perfect spot for him." And he's got a lot of experience, and he'll help the backup keepers, Christian Esposito and Brian Wilkin and Sabaglia. So there's 3 goalies right there. I don't know how many they're going to have this year, but Matt Perella is definitely going to be the top one. Jake, there was no doubt in my mind he was going to go back. So yeah, you're looking at the roster with a lot of missing pieces, and it's going to be interesting. We have 2 months left. So what is the front office going to do?
Yeah, the proposed start is December 31st, January 1st. You're looking at 30 days or 40 days. That's it, and you got to count time to get everyone in for the equivalent of spring training. I don't think we're going to see a preseason scrimmage exhibition this year, but I mean, you've got to figure camp's going to be 2 weeks, so realistically, they have 3 weeks to put a team together, at least the majority of it.
And I mean, if you take into account, like, if you have to quarantine or whatever,
Yeah,
throw
coming
another.
into New York.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm wondering if there's a lot of behind the scenes work going on, and it kind of circles back to some of these teams that possibly aren't going to be in this season. You're looking at teams like Monterey, Sonora, possibly Milwaukee. I've heard through the grapevine Mesquite might not be playing this year. So where do those players end up, and are we going after those players? Matt, segue.
Yeah, we mentioned him earlier, Brian Aguilar. I think would be a great pickup, especially pairing him up top. 33 goals, 15 assists last year before the season was canceled. All Western or all MASL player. He's stateside already, so that makes things a lot better at this point. I think the big thing will be, I don't want to say outbidding, but that could be what it comes down to.
Agreed.
Especially in a budget-tight year. I also threw Enrique Cañas up there. He played for Soles last year. I don't know if you could get him across the border at this point. But he had 33 goals, 10 assists. I was just looking up before Matt threw the segue my way if he was on the roster 3 years ago when Segura was there down in Soles, because that could be, if you're going someplace new, it doesn't hurt to have an ex-teammate.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And then I forget who he played for last year, and I didn't write it down, and I'm kicking myself for that, but Edgar Chapa Flores, I think he played for Mesquite. And the year before that, he was on Dallas, if I remember correctly. Don't quote me on that. I'm probably wrong. But over the last 2 years, he had 22 goals and 32 assists. And I know the one thing I harped on all last season, yeah, we had a lot of guys that could get goals, but our assist numbers were way down. We needed more guys that could create for other people.
You need to be able to create those opportunities in order to actually score on those opportunities.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Now, obviously, 54 points over 2 seasons isn't a top of, number one signing that you're getting out there. But that's a good middle rotation piece to plug in if you can get that.
Yeah, and I don't know if you guys saw my post on Twitter a few months ago. Another option, and I don't think you'll see this happen, but imagine the possibilities. Milwaukee Folds doesn't play this year. Ian Bennett signs with Utica.
Yeah, I saw that nice Photoshop job you did there.
That was not me. That was I got that from Coach Hall.
Huh?
Oh, I think everyone would be excited to see Ian Bennett in Utica.
For sure. No question there.
Absolutely. Like I said, I don't think it's going to happen. There are a few landing spots that have been thrown around.
God, I would hate to see San Diego get him.
No, it's St. Louis or Florida from what I've been hearing.
Okay.
But Utica would be an optimal landing spot for him, especially being so close to Canada, where he's originally from. So, and if the borders open up, his family can come over and watch. So I think Utica would be a good spot for him.
Yeah, I mean, again, that would...
and it's funny, I will pitch him that idea when I see him during the All-Star game.
Oh, yeah, certainly drop that little earworm.
Oh, I will.
And, the other thing I think we need to look at is who's going to be the backup keeper. If you could get him, I don't know. Diego Reynoso, who played for Monterey last year, was having a fantastic season. But they had that weird one keeper plays the first half, one keeper plays the second half thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Backup goalie, I mean, I throw around the joke all the time. I'm going to be the backup goalie. You could pretty much input anyone in there. I think you're going to see more of Andrew Coughlin. I think this season would have been perfect for Matt Perella to be in Utica, because I think we would have seen more of them, especially with how the schedule is going to be so compacted. We might see 2 games a weekend, 3 games a weekend. We really don't know. But as for a backup, maybe a return by Christian Esposito, because Perella signing with Rochester, there's not going to be a lot of room for 4 keepers. What are the other 3 guys going to do? Christian Esposito played for Utica 2 years ago. Don't be surprised if he comes back.
Another name I threw out there was Joey Capinos. I don't know if Lemos is going to be back for Milwaukee, if Milwaukee has a season. I know he had that ACL tear last year, but it should be about the back end of that early window where he could start coming back from it.
Yeah. in regards to Josh, we had him on our show a few months ago, and he was ready.
Mhm.
Like, he was ready to play. And I believe they might have had another child, him and his wife, maybe, possibly. So, and his visa, he was having visa issues as well. So he had to move back to Canada. So I don't know what that situation's going to be. If I were to put, like, I would say we're not going to see him this year, especially if Milwaukee's not going to be back.
Mhm.
So, and you can't have, like, it would be interesting to see Josh Lemos and Andrew Coughlin, kind of like Danny Waltman, Chris Toth, like a great 1-2 combo like that.
Yeah.
So who knows? I mean, that would be a great backup signing as well.
Yeah, especially while he's rehabbing that knee this year. You know, you wouldn't have to play him the majority of games, but there, like we said, a lot of holes, not a lot of time.
Yeah, unfortunately, time is definitely something that we don't exactly have, coming up on the at least scheduled start of the season. We're running out pretty quick.
Yeah, well, like I said, 40-ish days until the proposed start. 2 weeks until the All Star game. I would like to see something get moving here in the next couple of weeks. Sooner the better, but we have Thanksgiving coming up this week, which I'm sure not going to be a ton of business going on.
Nope.
And I would also imagine the week of Christmas with it. Like, that's got to be your training camp. So
At this point, yeah.
I don't know. Let's see what happens. Let's have a season. Let's throw some money at the league to keep them afloat.
Absolutely.
And then let's all be jealous of my game-worn and signed Andrew Coughlin keeper gloves. I think that's going to be everything for us today, guys. And Michelle, if she's still here.
She is here.
You've been quiet, uncharacteristically quiet.
Love you too. Just throwing stuff, apparently.
I too throw things when I'm frustrated, so I understand. I mean, if there are no fans in the stand, it'll certainly be weird not being at the Bank Center with you guys and making a scene in our little corner. But
Yeah, making a scene at home is definitely not as interesting because there's no one to watch.
no.
I'll make a scene wherever I go. I don't care.
And if you're in an apartment like me, you got to be considerate of the neighbor.
Yeah, my neighbors are definitely not attached to my house, at least, so that's good.
All right, well, with, COVID quarantines, maybe I'll just come stand on the lawn at your house and watch in the window so I can yell as loud as I want.
Or just come sit in the living room.
I mean, I could just turn the TV around. I mean, the TV kind of sits right in front of the window, so I mean,
Or
I
just
could turn
not
the
be a
TV
jerk
around.
and let him in the living room.
We could just face it outside. Outside. We can all just watch it from the lawn.
Lawn parties,
Woo!
6 foot spacing outside, hot cocoa for everyone.
in like 3 feet of snow.
Full capacity, 10 people.
Hey, we're not inside though.
No, I'll pass on the cocoa. I'll still bring some Utica Club.
Works for me.
No need to bring it, Matt. Just tell me what you want, and I'll bring it from work. I get 20% off on anything in the store.
Works for me!
Whoa, there she goes.
Good enough for me.
All right. Well, Matt, thank you for joining us tonight.
Anytime.
I know for myself it was just good talking with other people besides coworkers and the voices in my head that have kind of grown louder as this whole thing has gone on.
Yeah, definitely a long, definitely a lot to talk about. Kind of a long-winded session for us than normally. But I mean, given that's the first one back,
well,
this is much longer.
This is
but
light. This is light for me.
Yeah. Matt was calling it a short night last night at like 2 hours.
Yeah.
Huber's likes to talk.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, we could have gone longer. It'll probably be. I think next week will be a long episode, and then I really have no idea what we're doing for the All Star game. So that's just kind of.
You're going to buy a corn dog statue and give it out to your favorite player at the game.
Well, here's the thing.
That's what I heard.
It looks like we're doing that, but we're not giving it to them at the game. What we're going to do is we're going to get it, and then we're going to mail it to them.
So, like, you can get it engraved?
Yeah, so I think we've done the research. It's just a little expensive, but I was reading the comments today, and everyone's like, we'll chip in. I'm like, oh, God. Okay.
You started something.
That wasn't me. I started nothing.
The group you started something.
I started in the box. Whatever else happened, I don't
know. I say you get the corn dog Christmas ornament I saw and put it on a gold chain like the football players have, or whatever the player of the game was. They get the chain, swag it out.
I like it.
But that'll be a conversation for another day.
Absolutely.
Anybody else got anything they want to add tonight?
I think that's about all I got.
Matt, anything more from you?
I got nothing. It's good that you guys are back. It's good that you guys are going to be putting out content, which is something the league definitely needs. Especially in times of pandemicness. It gives people gives them hope, and that's why I do In the Box, and that's why you guys do this, and just keep going, keep on keeping on.
That was mostly my fault. I got to stop physically abusing my laptops, which is why I bought a desktop.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right. Well, if that's everything, then we'll sign off. Say thank you for listening. You can follow us, as always, on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, the big three. Our podcasts will be streaming on Google Podcasts, Spotify. I'm going to try to get them on a few others again, but who knows if I'll ever pick them up. Or you can just listen to the episode straight from SoundCloud. If you do go to our SoundCloud page, you'll notice that we are having a limited amount of content allowed on there. It's going to keep it to about a 3-hour max playlist, so it might be closer to 2 or 3 episodes on there. It's a cost-saving measure, and I'm looking for other potential home tests that might allow a little bit more, and then I have to figure out how to switch the technical computer stuff around to get the feed to be the same. But until then, as always, Matt, thank you for being with us.
Anytime.
Matt Sterling,
Much, Matt.
Brandon Brooks, and Michelle Brooks signing off and saying, you stay classy, America.
Thanks, everyone.
Nice.